Salt and Sanctuary. If you're looking for a Souls-like game, this is it, in 2D. It doesn't just play like a Souls game, it feels like one, and I think there is a difference between those two things. For example, Lords of the Fallen played like a Souls game, but it didn't give me a Souls-like experience. On the other hand, Salt and Sanctuary legitimately feels like a 2D Souls game, true to the form, and that's exciting. So I'm sitting here, right, and I'm trying to articulate how exactly this game feels different, but it occurs to me that I should just show you guys what my first playthrough was like. Let me tell you the stories of what I went through, and decide for yourself whether this is something you want to experience. This world has known war for centuries, but peace is finally preciously near. We have to deliver the princess to the kingdom across the sea, where a marriage alliance can save us all. Failing this mission will surely plunge us into darker days. The introduction is elegant. It gives me a simple objective while teasing you with the wider plot going on behind the scenes, and as soon as you're dropped into the game, you're in a scenario where that world is threatened, because the ship is under attack, and they fear the princess is going to be ransomed. There's only one way to describe what feeling strikes you next. The game feels familiar. You know when you pick up an FPS game and you know how it works right off the bat because you've played other first-person shooters? It's kind of like that. There's block, parry, roll, light attack, strong attack, jump, guard breaks, a dedicated healing potion, and a stamina bar that works identically to those in the Souls games. But the familiarity goes further than just controls. It's in so many elements of the game's design, and there's so many moments in the game where things just click for you. I felt this as soon as I fought my way to the deck of the ship and saw what I was facing. You know how the Asylum demon in Dark Souls is kind of like, "Hi, welcome to Dark Souls, I'll be your tutorial." Well, Salt and Sanctuary was clearly inspired by that, because you're not exactly expected to get this boss first go. You're actually supposed to die to this boss to progress, and I guess in that regard it's more similar to Demon Souls, where you're supposed to die, but there is a reward for succeeding. I have no idea what you get for succeeding in Salt and Sanctuary though, because understandably I do die here, but I don't feel too bad about it. You wake up on an island. Your goal is to survive and find the princess. The art style begins to make an impression on you. Everything has this cool, faded look, with good use of bloom, especially on light sources. You go inside the first building you see, you light up the room by placing your book on the pedestal, and the significance of this place instantly makes sense. This is a sanctuary, a warm place for you to rest and recuperate before adventuring out and killing things. Sound familiar? And like I said before, it's just another moment that clicks for you. The tutorial boss felt familiar, the combat felt familiar, and now sanctuaries feel familiar as well. They serve the same purpose as a bonfire does in Dark Souls. Here, you can level up by spending this game's equivalent of souls, which is salt. Every enemy so far has given you salt and gold, which can be seen in the bottom left. Now gold can't be lost, and it's used for equipment purchases and stuff like that. Salt, on the other hand, is exclusively for your character, and it's lost upon death. Every time you level up your character with salt, you'll get a talent point in the form of a black orb, which you can use on your character's talent tree. And I save my orb for now, because I don't quite know what style of play works for me yet. I don't know what to invest my points into. So I go out into the world, and I learn. Not by reading tutorials, but just by experimenting, the way it should be. And now I'm on the lookout for things that are Souls-like. I learned that messages in a bottle are like soapstone messages, giving you tips about your surroundings. And I learned that gravestones are like bloodstains in Dark Souls. They show you the last few moments of another player's death. And I learned that if you kick a gravestone, your game crashes. For some reason I do this more than once. There was also a moment where the enemies I'd already killed came back to life later, and I was told about this by a small message in the bottom left. And I needed to learn all of these things because if I did die, then I would have had to restart at the last sanctuary I rested at. So you're constantly on the lookout for the next sanctuary or the next shortcut you can unlock, and you often find yourself thinking, and Dark Souls fans will recognize this, you find yourself thinking, should I push further, or should I run back to my sanctuary, get new healing potions, spend all of my salt, and start again? And these are feelings you'll recognize. And speaking of which, another thing you'll recognize is what happens on screen here, because what happened here felt awfully familiar. Try jumping. It's essentially this game's equivalent of try jumping in Dark Souls, and I'm ashamed to say I do it. But my genius moment here is actually a good time for me to explain the death mechanic. When you die, you leave your salt behind, but it's not that simple. If you die from gravity, you lose all of your salt, and it becomes held by this evil little bird that's relatively easy to kill. But if you die to an enemy, your salt infuses that enemy with extra strength, and the only way to get your salt back is to kill the enemy you died to last time. Except now that enemy is harder, so it forces you to learn from your mistakes, and it punishes you if you haven't. As a result, I've had a few cool moments with this mechanic. There was this one moment where I died within arrow shot of my sanctuary, so when I respawned at my sanctuary, I could actually shoot the bird that stole my souls as soon as I started, which made me feel pretty special. But then I remembered how I died, and I felt a little bit less special. I really need to stop jumping off ledges. After I unlocked my first shortcut, I read this: "Need Key of Night, go up." After reading this, I knew that a boss fight was coming, so I travelled back to my sanctuary. It's time to level up my character. I realised that I've been playing like a pretty standard paladin, using my mace and shield and healing, so I put points into those things, into maces and healing, and I even managed to summon a blacksmith to my sanctuary. It's early days, but these little things help you feel like this sanctuary is your home. And then I set out to find the boss, so I can unlock the door and progress. And I'm really impressed with the bosses so far. The first boss is called the Sodden Knight, and he challenges your skill at every mechanic you should have learned so far. The first thing he challenges is your jump timings. He has a bolt of lightning that travels across the ground, and the best way to avoid it is to back off once you realize he's casting it and jump over it. And you have an opportunity to strike him here. He also challenges your ability to memorize enemy movesets. He has this one slow melee attack and one fast one, which I decide to block because my shield is pretty good. And the most important thing you have to learn from this fight, and it's the one new thing I learned that I didn't know before, is that positioning during boss fights in this game is really important. He has this one jumping attack, which is your only chance to get on his other side. So this challenges your ability to roll, and it really forces you to make good use of your space. The reason I died during my first encounter with the Sodden Knight was because I didn't know you couldn't actually walk through him, so I got cornered and I got stabbed to death. In my second fight, I learned from my mistake. I'm rolling under him every time he jumps, and if I get cornered, I wait patiently for my opportunity to roll through and I don't miss it. So the fight was really good. It challenged game mechanics effectively, and my heart was beating fast the whole time. So that's good game design in my book. And so far, the game has been full of these little moments of good game design. One of my favorites was when I killed the Sodden Knight and I used his key to push further into the castle. So I'm doing pretty well, right? I'm jumping over weak platforms to get items, when suddenly the way forward becomes pitch black, and I hear the rattling of chains in the darkness. I go down to investigate, and I am so focused on the rattling chains that I fall to my death. I was standing on the weak floorboards and I didn't notice because the enemy came into view at that exact moment. Gravity gets me killed more than anything else in this game, I swear. But it's these things that make my experience memorable. There was that time that I had to lure a wolf out of a hole in the wall just so I could get inside. There was that jumping puzzle I risked losing all my salt for. There was a creepy exchange I had with a guy who had just been crucified. And after a while of playing, you do have to hand it to the developers. They're crafting some pretty memorable encounters. And combat is also more satisfying than most other 2D side-scrollers I've played. Enemies have decently timed wind-ups before their attacks, and you can guard break or critical hit wounded enemies, and the blood splatter that occurs on the background makes sure you pave your path in blood. And the combat does need to be satisfying because, just like Dark Souls, it's hard enough that you're going to be replaying the same sections over and over again. The only time I've had to do this so far was when I faced my second boss, the Queen of Smiles. It's a wonderfully designed boss, and it's much more memorable than the first. This is footage from my first fight against her, and you can see that I suck because I'm still learning her moveset. She has a dash attack that you can roll through to switch sides, and you'll notice I'm much more aware of finding that one attack that you can roll through. She also has an AoE blade attack that you have to find gaps in, and a downward stab that can combo you pretty effectively. It's a seriously fun fight, and it's really quite difficult as well. This one took me 3 tries, but I was using an unupgraded weapon, and that's not including all the times I died before reaching her. So let me tell you the story of the road I did before I got to her. So first you had to get past a crossbow trap, and you can actually see the tripwire if you look carefully, but I never noticed tripwires existed, so I run into them all the time. Then you kill the 2 guys guarding it, before facing another chain reaper. And now, you see, I think I'm so smart here, because I'm going to use that upper platform for more combat room, but genius that I am, I don't notice the tripwire, again, and I get completely wiped out by a trap. The Reaper actually got the killing blow, so now it has all my salt, and now it's stronger than usual. Great, it takes 2 more shots to kill next time, but at least I know the trap's there now, right? Nope, apparently that doesn't mean I know how to avoid it. Take 3. Next time I do manage to get past, and there's one more section of enemies before the Queen of Smiles. And at this point it's about doing it as efficiently as possible, so that you have a lot of healing left over for the boss. It reminds me of Dark Souls, where you would run out of Estus fighting your way to the boss, and you would die from lack of healing. Good times. So while you watch me kill the Queen of Smiles, I have to conclude by saying a lot of games could be called Souls-like. For example, other games have Souls mechanics, obviously. Shovel Knight has a mechanic where you lose your experience at your point of death. Destiny tells the brunt of its story in item descriptions, and tons of games have stats that you can level up, checkpoints, and challenging gameplay. But Salt and Sanctuary has it all. It intrigues me, it engages me, it's executed really well, and it has so much potential just because it understands how to build upon what makes the Souls games really work. And I should probably talk about the creators and how they understand Souls games, because the husband and wife team behind this are Souls fans, just like me and you. Together, they're Scar Studios. They're not a big company, they're just 2 people looking to make a good game, and I know they're really excited to share it with you guys, which is awesome. So you can expect them to be down in the comments reading what you guys write. And I've also heard them say that they're open to community involvement, so who knows, maybe we could all work together with them in making their game even better and giving them feedback and stuff like that. Salt and Sanctuary is currently in alpha, and you guys can reach the developers on Facebook, Twitter, and even Twitch, where they're live streaming the creation of this game, so go and check out those links down below. So I'll definitely be covering this game again, and maybe next time I post about it you guys can play too, that would be great. It's currently planned for release this year for PS4, PSvita, and later for PC hopefully. So I hope you guys do get a chance to try it, because it looks to be something you won't regret playing. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll catch you next time.